Hello, welcome to Wargamer. I'm your host, Rob. And the first thing I need you to do is leave all of your wars in the comments below because we're about to look at the Ironjawz faction focus. I personally consider Ironjawz and also Kruleboyz to be different factions, although they have said in the article they're about to preview that they'll be in the same battle pack, even though they're two distinctly different factions. I mean, imagine throwing the Fire Slayers and the Carriage Overlords together. Just rude, in my opinion. Anyway, we're going to look at the Ironjawz faction focus. And I want you to know, this is mental. This is absolutely out there. So let's have a good time. All right, so battle traits are the special rules that you get if you're running Ironjawz army, which you will be running because they're absolutely going to thunder punch your friends to death, which is going to be really good. You have two different battle traits. First one is Mighty Destroyers, which is done once per turn across the whole army, so only once across the whole army in any hero phase, which does mean, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and for fans of the saying, every hero phase. You pick a friendly Ironjawz unit that was not set up this turn to be the target. The target can move up to 3 inches. It can move into combat. If it was in combat at the start of the move, it must end that move in combat. I'm going to take a moment here to pause. This is what Murderlust is in Age of Sigmar 3, and it has to be probably one of the strongest abilities that you can find in the entire game. The ability to effectively shut down your enemy so that they can't do anything, especially fight, is especially move around the board and charge, and they have to fight the unit you've Murderlusted into them, is bananas good. It's crazy good. So all I want to say, it's probably up there with like Strike First, Bellacor's of Italy. It's really good. It's wild. The fact that you're going to be able to do this at the end of any hero phase before the opponent's movement phase is just insane. So let's get on with it. But it's so strong. Okay, next up, we got once per battle in your charge phase. So you can only do this once across the whole game. You pick a friendly Ironjawz hero to be the target. For the rest of the turn, the following effects apply to Ironjawz units while they're holding within 18 inches. You add 1 to charge rolls, and you add 1 to the attack characteristic of those units' melee weapons. Don't forget, we're going to add these up. That's +1 attack, okay? On all units within 18 inches. Only once per battle, but, to quote Zim, like Drill Instructor Zim from Starship Troopers, if you disable the enemy's hand, they cannot press a big red button. If you destroy the enemy's army, you don't need to have an ability that happens more than once per battle. So, it's a bit long-winded, to be honest, as a quote. Anyway, Ironjawz Brawl is a sub-faction, the battle formation. You get there are 4 battle formations for each army. Ironjawz Brawl is the one that they featured. And this one is called Natural Disaster. And if you make an unmodified charge roll of an 8, for a friendly non-hero Ironjawz unit, you add 1 to the attacks characteristic of that unit's melee weapons for the rest of the turn. That's +2 attacks. Just remember that for later. You do have to roll an 8 to charge. Now they've showed off one of the spells from the spell lore. All your wizards in your army will know this, and also because it's an unlimited spell, if you have 3 wizards, you'll be able to cast this 3 separate times, once each with each of the 3 wizards. A wizard can't cast it more than once, and that's all thanks to the unlimited keyword. The spell is Bash 'em Lads. It's cast on a 6, and then the target's melee weapons, which is a unit wholly within 12 inches, gets critical 2 hits. So now we've got +2 attacks, and these 6s to hit are going to do critical 2 hits. Pretty good. We're going to skip Gordrakk for a minute. We're going to go straight down to the Warchanter. The Warchanter is a priest, or as I like to say, a Wololo level 1. You can see that at the bottom, which means he's going to attempt to generate some manifestation points, or not manifestation points, sorry. He's going to try and get some priest points. And the way you do that in your hero phase, you roll a d6 on a 1, nothing happens. Or if you've got some in your pool, you lose d3. Obviously, if you've got 0, you can't lose any. And then you add however many you've got next to your priest. So if I roll a 4, then I'll put a 4 next to my priest. Roll a 6, put 6 next to my priest. I can store or bank those points for a bigger prayer that I do later. And that's how priests work. This Warchanter's got 6 health, a 4-up save, moves 4 inches, control value of 2. It does have 6 attacks that damage D3, but they don't have any rend. And it does have an ability called Rhythm of Destruction, which is pretty rubbish. If any enemy models were slain this turn by this unit's combat attacks, you gain D3 ritual points, which is what you get. Ritual points are what you get, the points that you get for trying to do prayers. Now, I guess you could try and throw him into combat, but he's only got 6 health, so don't do that. Keep him away from the fight. In the right situation, maybe, but you have a command ability to be able to do a prayer on your opponent's turn. Therefore, just generate ritual points in your opponent's turn. Why is this all important? Well, they have a prayer that's answered on a 4 called Killer Beat. You pick a friendly Ironjawz priest to chant it, and you pick a friendly Ironjawz unit wholly within 12 inches of them to be the target. Then you add 1 to the damage characteristic of the target's melee weapons for the rest of the turn. If the chanting rolls an 8, you can pick 2 eligible units. Now, that means this is a prayer that you can also do in your opponent's turn. So +1 damage in your turn, +1 damage in their turn. All depends how many ritual points you're able to generate, which I think is important. So that is going to be +2 attacks, obviously only one of those is once per battle, critical 2 hits, and +1 damage on the weapon profile of units. So, now we're adding +1 damage. Pretty good. So this is, the Warchanter is a force multiplier. Previously he used to add +1 damage anyway, but now you got the potential to add +1 damage to 2 different units, which is nice. It used to last until your next turn. It only lasts till the end of the turn, but you're definitely going to take a Warchanter because +1 damage is good. Listen, I could go talk about Gordrakk, but I'm just going to immediately skip because I just want to keep this combo going because I want to talk about Brutes, okay? Brutes is a unit of 5, and they have a massive glaring problem in that they only move 4 inches. I will accept that, and then that is the only time I'm going to describe anything in this unit as being bad. This unit is absolutely out to party. This is all of the barbarians in all of the hordes that you ever heard about ever. This is wild. They've got 3 health each, so that's going to be 15 health for a unit with a 3-up armor save. They've got a control value of 1, so they're not very good at controlling objectives, which is fine, with the exception of the passive, where enemy models with a health characteristic of 1 or 2 cannot contest objectives while they're within combat of this unit. I've got 40 zombies in combat with this unit. Don't worry about it. They can't contest an objective. Really good, okay? But that's probably not why they're brilliant, because they have 3 attacks each. 3, count them up. So that's going to be 15 attacks across a unit of 5. They hit on a 4, which is obviously a massive negative. You get +1 to hit, obviously, from a variety of different ways. 3s to wound. If you use the seasonal rules, these can be 3s and 2s. They're rend 1. They're damage 2. If you fight an infantry, they're rend 2. But let's just stack all of these abilities together. Let's take a unit of 10 brutes. And then let's charge with an 8+, that's +1 attacks characteristic. I've called a Wars, that's +1 attacks characteristic. And I've got a champion, so that's 51 attacks. I'm using the seasonal rules because I've decided I want to, so I get +1 to hit, +1 to wound, so it's 3s and 2s. They've got Rend 1. Now, Rend 1, sure, not the best, okay? But if I'm fighting infantry, it's Rend 2, which is pretty nice. And because of the Warchanter priest buff, they're damage 3. 2 of our guys are going to be armed with gore choppers, because 1 in 5 models can be, and that's going to be 6 attacks, which are going to be hitting, are going to be 3s and 2s. Rend 2, damage 4. But if we just take the base brute weapons, 51 attacks that are damage 3 is mental. I have no other way to describe that. It's incredibly crazy. Okay, everyone is upset. Okay, about that. So brutes are just stunning, in my personal opinion. Like, nothing survives. You're going to need a really good armor save, and even then, like, 51 attacks. Even if I like give you 20 dice, right? Even with a 2-up armor save, you're failing 3, which means you're taking 9 damage. Right? Anyway. Oh, yeah, I forgot about exploding 6s. I'm sorry, I forgot about the exploding 6s you get for the big charge. Yeah. It's really good. Anyway, let's go look at Gordrakk, okay? Because now we can just kind of come down off that mountain of quality. And they are slow. The brutes are slow. I want to be clear before anyone in the YouTube comments is like, they're not slow. Gordrakk has got 20 health with a 3-up armor save and moves 10 inches, which is slow. He's got a massive base. Games Workshop terrain rules say that terrain needs to be separated by 6-inch blocks, so 6 inches away from each other. Problem is, Gordrakk is on a base that's 6.5 inches wide, so he literally can't fit through certain gaps, which is why TOs should make it 6.5 inches. So he's on a massive base. He's got a great armor save, 3-up. It's got control value of 5. I don't know why he controls less than Be'lakor, but whatever. Okay, he's got a shooting attack, which you could do as combat, which is quite nice, 6 attacks. He's slow at 10 inches, in my opinion. He's got smashing and cunning, which is 8 attacks, 3s and 2s, rend 1, damage 2, which don't forget, that could be damage 3 and rend 2 against a hero, because you've got anti-hero +1 rend. Now, where it gets really spicy is Big Teeth's Fist and Tail, which is a companion attack, which is 8 attacks, 4s and 2s, rend 1, damage 3. Don't forget, you can't do anything to improve the quality of Big Teeth's Fists because it's a companion weapon, which means you can't give them pluses to hit or do extra attacks or anything like that. But 8 attacks doing damage 3 is wild. And can really just wreck a monster. He's got a battle damage status, which is a whatever, like slightly less attacks. And then he has a monster grapple, which is a rampage, which is done once per turn in any combat phase, which means any combat phase. And you pick an enemy monster, so it's only really effective against enemy monsters. Where if you compare to something like Bellicor, where you get strike first against like any unit, it's really good. So this isn't quite as good as that. Roll dice on a 3+, you pick one of the target's weapons. You pick a companion weapon if it has any, so you halve the attacks characteristic of that weapon, rounding up for the rest of the turn. So any companion weapons that they have are going to be slightly not as good, slightly less attacks, not many, which is fine, but it's also on a 3-up. This is such a weak ability. I would have liked to have seen this be auto, in my opinion, but whatever. He also got an ability once per battle, which is a reaction to when you do a war, which you also do once per battle. And this allows you to have +1 to hit to all Ironjawz units within 18 inches, which is fine. And then finally, you've got Strength of Victory, which you do at the end of any turn, which you do at the end of every turn. And if any damage points were allocated to a unit and that unit was destroyed, even if it's destroyed by an enemy unit, by another unit, then this unit will gain a war token. So get into combat, do loads of damage. You haven't quite killed the unit. One of your friend units kills it off. You still gain a war token. You can have up to 3 war tokens. Until the end of the next turn, you add 1 to the attacks characteristic of this unit's weapons for each war token it has. It doesn't say war tokens go away. They stay there all the time. So it's basically a +1 damage, +1 attack all the time. This isn't actually that stunning because you got to kill 3 individual units to gain +3 attacks on top of your already base 8 attacks. So I guess this makes you have 11 attacks, damage 3 potentially, which is obviously brilliant, but you got a lot to do it, right? In my opinion. Okay, so I think Gordrakk feels like he's going to be very expensive and you're not going to take him. Okay, now we are going to talk about Big Pig. Big Pig! The Maw-Grunta with the hacking crew. It's one of the 3 different big pigs that you can get. 12 health with a 3-up save, and it is a monster. Okay? It's got an okay attack profile, which is what its job is, which is 4 attacks with the choppers, damage 2, but these are all hitting on 4s. The kill choppers are 4 attacks, damage 1. Now, the Maw-Grunta's tusks are 5 attacks, damage 2, and they hit on 4s, which is a weakness, but this is where it gets amazing because they have the unstoppable momentum profile, where each time this unit uses a charge ability, it gains a momentum point. Each time it uses a run ability, and don't forget redeploy is a run ability, it gains 2 momentum points. So you could redeploy in your opponent's turn and then charge in your turn, and you'll gain your maximum 3 points of momentum. Points aren't tokens, they're different. Add the number of momentum points to these units to the damage characteristic of the Maw-Grunta's tusks. At the end of the turn, at the end of each battle round, you subtract 1 from its momentum points to a minimum of 0. This does mean that the Maw-Grunta's tusks are going to be 5 attacks, damage 5. And what's interesting also about the unstoppable momentum passive is that this is not locked to just the army. Sometimes you have once per army. So, for instance, you saw with the Rampage, I think, that you saw for the Hell Pit Abomination is once per army. But you can have multiple big pigs doing multiple unstoppable momentums. And in my opinion, that means that you could have 2, 3 big pigs, which are all going to be damage 5 potentially when they're charging in and doing damage. And that's nuts, right? That is crazy amounts of output, potentially 25 damage, ignoring all of the other profiles, right? Just from these guys alone is wild. And they're pretty survivable with 12 health and 3-up save. They also have an amazing ability called Carve a Path, which is done once per turn in only your movement phase. If this unit is in combat, it can move a distance up to its move characteristic, and it can pass through models and the combat ranges of enemy units, but it cannot end that move in combat, which means you can effectively do a retreat. Then pick each enemy unit that this unit passed across during that move to be the target. Roll a d3 for each one. On a 2+, you inflict a number of mortal damage to the target equal to the roll. Then this unit gains 2 momentum points. This is then a core, move, and rampage keyword. This means you also, because it's a core ability, you aren't able to use another core ability in the same phase, so you won't be able to move again. But you are going to be able to charge after this. So in your turn, you can basically get out of combat, gain 2 momentum points, charge, gain another momentum point, and then have 5 attacks at damage 5. So Big Pig is absolutely massive stonks, is unpinnable, difficult to deal with, really strong. So all in all, I'd be really, really excited if I was an Ironjawz player because the numbers coming out of these are crazy. Do you want a really dynamic play state army where I'm moving big pigs around? Yes. Am I going to go and look at getting some big pigs right now? Yes, absolutely. Am I also thinking about picking up 10 brutes and just smacking people in the head? Yes, I am. So they're looking very strong, in my personal opinion. Obviously, points and other things to be counted for this. If I was an Ironjawz player, I'd be feeling pretty stoked. It looks great. Thanks for watching the video. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you guys soon.